Hi everyone, welcome back on my channel. Dorota Palicka, International Nail Artist and Educator here. And today we are going to do a beautiful one-stroke flowers with a little bit of bling. You can check that out in here. Yes, that's the flowers which we are going to create. One stroke is definitely one of my favorite techniques, and I will be doing quite a lot of tutorials with the one stroke. On this video I will explain to you from the start to finish how to recreate this look and how to paint the beautiful one stroke flowers. I also have been recording quite a lot from the salon. As you could see it, I have been posting more regularly on the channel, and the idea will be going that we will post Monday, Wednesdays and Saturdays, so that's the usual posting days around 5 p.m. depends how I kind of finish the work, so 5, sometimes 6 p.m. And that will be a really great quality tutorials where everything is going to be in focus, when you're going to hear everything. And then those videos which maybe didn't turn out perfect, but they still have lots of useful information, I will post them in those extra days like Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays and Sundays. And they might be a little bit of missing kind of focus in the camera, or there might be some people popping in, speaking loud, phone calls going on, but I think the sound tutorials are pretty useful for you as well, and it will be an extra bonus for you having more videos during the week. But let's start painting those beautiful one-stroke flowers. So it is a one-stroke flower with a bit of crystals, and I will show you how to do this look. I can put this wee beautiful design on the side, and I've got already black tips, so I don't have to paint them black. Obviously you could use a different color of the background as well. It will still look really nice. Actually it could really look stunning on the nude color as well, or on top of pink, so any kind of color you would think of. And I'm going to use an acrylic paints for that. So when I'm working with my acrylic paints, I always have a baby wipe as well and a tiny bit of the water. And we're going to use the Master brush, which is such a beautiful and tiny one-stroke brush. It's the tiniest one actually ever. For those of you who has my previous brush, I might actually show you the difference. That was me trying different things. Gosh, got too many brushes now, guys. And that's, yeah, so that was the level 1 brush, and then that's a level 2 brush. You can see the difference in the sizes. Like, I mean, this one is like 3 times smaller. So it is a really great one for really precise and tiny wee flowers. And I find it quite good as well when we're doing sometimes we're scared to press harder with our brush because it's going to create too big flower. So obviously with this brush, because it's such a small one, you can easily press a bit harder. So I'm squeezing out the paint, and I'm always, when I'm closing, I'm using the wipe, so this way I keep them nice and clean. You can sometimes even shake them, like when the pigment separates a little bit. It's the same like with the gel polish. And they last me for like years, some colors. Like, I mean, they really so super effective, like, and long-lasting ones. So I have squeezed out some colors, and maybe I will squeeze out a bit of white as well. Usually I have like hundreds of the colors on my mixing palette because I don't know which color I'm going to use. But we are going to do those beautiful and easy flowers. So I will have my wipes on the side. I have dipped in my brush in the water to kind of get it nice. It's good even to squeeze your brush in the fingers sometimes, so it is really nice and flat. You don't want too much water because then the paints are not going to be as pigmented. And I will make it a bit more advanced. So we are going to mix 2 colors. I've got yellow and a white. And on the other side, I'm going to have the deep magenta and the purple one. Okay, so this way we can create a really nice and interesting color. Because you can see few different shades of the color coming through it. So this time I want the flower to be more on the top, and then we do the crystals in the kind of like C, the mirror C letter. So I'm going to show you really basic. So touch it and touch it. So that will give you a size of the petal. And basically what you want to do is you want to touch it, go a bit to the top, lift it up, I'm doing really as slow as I can. Go to the top, go to the bottom, and then go to the top, go to the bottom. Okay, so this way we have created really basic kind of petal. And then I'm going to paint much bigger one, so the same way, just a bigger petal. And I kind of like to press it harder, so this way my paints mix it really much better. You can see actually when I'm doing a bit quicker and when I don't it too slow. So I didn't clean my brush yet, I just picked another colors. And I'm just going to paint another petal just the same way. Now, one stroke looks the most beautiful if we can go over it a second time. But to do so, you need to wait for a product to really dry. If you touch the wet paint, you are going to make a mess. Like, it's not going to look nice. So I'm always waiting a couple seconds for the product to dry. I would maybe finish and do some leaves or something and then go over it a second time. This way the color goes really nicely pigmented. You don't have to touch exactly all the places, but you can see how much the color has popped out. So now this is a time to clean the brush. So it's the first time when I'm actually putting it to the water. So I'm pressing to get rid of any paints which might start hardening. Then clean my brush, keep it nice and flat. And now we are going to do another layer of the petals. I can probably tell that I'm loving one stroke, like it's so my favorite technique. So I have used white and purple, and then dip in the deep magenta and the white. I don't store the paints, like once I use them I just wipe it off. Usually actually a piece of foil is pretty good as well, like a kitchen foil, because you can just bin it after you have used it and you don't have to clean it. And I really take my time on preparing the paints, the color of the paint I want, like, because if I'm happy with it, then I get a really nice results. The paint needs to be a nice and creamy consistency. Once you start feeling it is getting too dry, you need to add a tiny bit of water or squeeze a fresh paint. So what I'm doing is just the same petals, just a slightly smaller ones, and I'm painting only two in between the gaps. So mix my paint well, and another one. So leave some gap and paint another petal. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush. So obviously the longer I'm painting with the paints, the drier they get, and I might need to introduce a little bit more water slightly more often. And now I'm just going to go a second time over it, because we are making a perfect flowers today. And because we've got those few different colors, I think it looks much more interesting. So it's nothing overly too complicated. And now we are going to start sticking the crystals. So I'm taking a tiny bit of the soak of base gel, put it on the side. And I want a really nice crystal here. Actually, I could do some strings or wee lines beforehand as well. Yes, I should do some wee lines. Let me do wee lines. So for the wee lines, I'm just going, okay, this one goes to the lamp, just to freeze this crystal. And then for the very fine lines, I'm taking lots of water. So lots of water, and I train my brush. I want my brush to behave. So lots of water in, and we're going to use only a tip of the brush to paint it very watery white. So a couple of those wee lines. You guys paint them before you stick the crystal, because then you can press harder, so it is going to be much easier on the place where the crystals are starting. Okay, and then don't use your brush for this part. I mean, don't use your good brush. You can use the brush which is already broken, and this one really is. Or a dotting tool, but usually the dotting tools aren't as small. So I'm just doing a couple of the tiny wee dots. I think the dots always goes with the one stroke, like so much. And now I can finish it off with the crystals. So I want to add lots of tiny wee caviar beads around this beautiful crystal. Now, if you're scared that's when you're applying the crystals, you are going to wreck your flower, what you could do is apply the top coat, then buff it gently, and then apply your crystals, and then apply the top coat around it. That would be the most secure way of doing it. I kind of know I cannot push it over the acrylic paints too much because I will smudge it. So I'm just very gently placing those caviar beads. So I don't smudge the paint. Okay, and I'm missing one more. Just pick up one more. I've got two. One more. And there. Okay, I'm going to freeze it because I don't want to lose this shape. If the crystals move, especially the caviar beads, because they rounded, they can kind of slide off. And then you've got a bit of messy design. Okay, so we could also, I'm actually not liking this place, so I'm going to put, I don't have smaller crystal. Somewhere I should have, but I don't have in here. But because we have all outlined the other one, this one is going to look okay. It will look like a smaller. And I like this much better now. So I can cook it. Cameraman is showing thumbs up. Yes, I didn't like the place how I draw the line, but just because I placed the crystals too soon, so don't do that, guys. I mean, if you want, I can show you. I can show you also like those kind of style petals, so not just a half of the flower, but a full flower. Do you want it? Okay, I will show you this one as well. I've got actually tip buffed in here. I will be just much quicker this time, like you guys know how to do it, so I don't have to go as slow with the explanation. So I'm just picking up my one color. Now I've got some base in here, so I need to be very careful to don't mix my paint in those places. Now the paint has started drying a little bit, so it's harder to pick it up. So what you could do is you could take a dotting tool and add a drop of the water, so it's easier to pick this paint. It kind of looks like an unicorny colors as well. And then this flower, we are going to go like this. So much bigger petals. Much bigger. And I'm kind of massaging this paint in. And the last petal, so we've got 5 petals in there. I managed to get a really nice mixture of the color. And then just go over it. My paint is a little bit too dry now. I should really brush, get some water into my brush. So once you start feeling the paint lose those creamy consistency, just water your brush a little bit. And that is much nicer, much nicer. Okay, so I've got the first layer of the petals. More water in, and now we are going to do the second layer. So the second layer I'm going to do more white and purple. You can see I have took too much water now. And I'm going to paint the petals in between. So just the touches of the brush, really. Okay, so we have created like a 2-row petals. Now I'm going to outline it just because I got a little bit of those sharp, not sharp edges. The paint was a little bit too dry. So what I'm going to do is a drop of white and drop of yellow, lots of water in, like really lots of water in. For any kind of fine lines you want lots of water in. Actually, black tip is really good because I had a bit of fluff on my brush. So what I'm doing now, I'm just outlining a little bit. My petals. You can also get them like wee lines inside as well. That was a missed one. I have tried to dip in my brush in a crystal box. Okay, and then the ones which are inside, we are going to outline white. So that will make them even more kind of defined. But I'm just going to do it on the one side. I think one stroke is always so beautiful. Okay, now I will take the old brush and do lots of white dots inside. So white dots, and then we will place the crystals. Once this is dry, we can place tiny wee crystals. We could also draw a quick petals on the side of it as well. I think that will look pretty nice, almost like a wee leaves. So I'm going to do it in a white and purple. So quickly mix these colors in, and then we are going to do one leaf. Going to the top, then white touch white, change the angle, press it harder. So because the brush is angular, it is quite easy to paint this shape of the petals. And if you mix your paints, like I find it, if the paints are really kind of mix it more, it gives a nicer result than when it's just like straight white and purple. Like that doesn't look as nice. And then one more. See, you can see the difference. Like when my paint was pretty dry and I didn't have enough water, the edges of the petals was kind of not as nice and smooth. But when the paint has the right consistency, then the edges are much more nicer and neater. Okay, time for crystals. So a tiny bit of the base. Tiny bit of the base. And we want one crystal there, one crystal there, and one crystal there. I think one stroke with the crystals is just a perfect combination for me. Yeah, that's absolutely nice and stunning. It's not over the top. Cook it just so the crystals stays in there, and then we can apply the top coat, and then that's our design finished. So something different, a little bit more advanced. There is lots of tutorials of the one stroke on this channel, because as I say, it's one of my favorite techniques. And with the one stroke, the trick is it doesn't look as beautiful until you put the top coat over it. So once the top coat goes over it, like the design is even much nicer. Always for a one stroke, like the colors pops out and the blending looks so much better. You can already see it, it's so much nicer. I'm going to cook it, and let's see how this flower turned out after we put the top coat over it. Yeah, if we're really fancy, we could add maybe a one wee string or a tiny bit of the caviar beads as well in here. I'm just going to finish on this. You can see how much nicer all the design becomes once the top coat goes over it. The colors just pop in like, and the blending is much nicer then. So don't worry about the results until you top coat it. Everything looks a bit worse than once the top coat is over it with the one stroke technique. Okay, and you can have a top coat over it. I'm going to put it inside the lamp and give it a cure. So this one is completely finished, and we've got 3 tips to collection. Yeah, I hope you have really enjoyed watching this tutorial. Just a perfect example of my favorite things, a blink and a one stroke. So I'm just going to show you them all. On the hand is always better because the light reflection is sometimes like pretty strong, and then you cannot see the design. There we are. That's nice and beautiful one stroke. I hope you have really enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you did, let me know down in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next tutorial. Glittery hacks, and bye for now.